Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just following up, because I think it's pretty unavoidable connecting some dots here, Fast and Furious and all of this. Of course, the program lasted from 09 to 11, allowing weapons from the U.S. to pass to suspected gun smugglers. We end up losing some 1,400 firearms during that, many of which end up being used in crimes, including the death of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry in December of 2010. All right, shortly after that, Fast and Furious ends, and then investigations begin, both with this committee and the House Judiciary Committee. And that is a fascinating process to me. Let me just highlight some of the issues that take place. In October 2011, documents are obtained after Eric Holder was subpoenaed. Documents is found that his testimony was inconsistent. He said he knew of Fast and Furious for only a few weeks. Documents revealed he knew over a year. February 2012, Holder tells this committee that firings and charges against DOJ officials who oversaw Fast and Furious are likely to come within 6 months, and he denies any cover-up involvement. June of that year, this committee recommends Holder to be held in contempt of Congress for failing to turn over documents that have been sought by the committee. On that same day, President Obama asserts executive privilege over the documents that are sought by this committee. Then, 8 days later, the House here votes to hold Eric Holder in criminal contempt. The next month, a congressional report is released placing blame on the acting ATF Director Melson and Deputy Director Hoover. Hoover resigns that day. Then you, Mr. Horowitz, release a report a few months later that says, in essence, that there were 14 ATF individuals and DOJ employees who were responsible for management failures. I think that was a very polite way of putting it. And then it takes 2 years before finally DOJ turns over the 65,000 pages that have been sought. Why did it take so long to get those 65,000 pages?
I wouldn't know the answer on that, Congressman. We were not involved in the litigation.
You were not involved in that?
Of that.
Do you know if any action was ever taken against those who are involved in the Fast and Furious scandal?
The acting director.
Okay.
Yes, Congressman. That would be me as the deciding official on Fast and Furious. Many of the people retired, but I know that I believe it was July of last year, a document was provided to this committee regarding each person listed and their status and any discipline they received, and to respect the privacy laws. That's how it was delivered, and it is DOJ policy that I not speak publicly on those.
So there was some action taken against some, is that?
There was action and things were resolved.
Okay. Could you provide this committee with what was taken? Because it appears as though there was some criminal activity involved. Well, let me ask you, Mr. Horowitz, would you agree with that? I mean, in your findings, you used the phrase management failures, but I mean, Congress is holding Eric Holder in criminal contempt. I mean, is there criminal activity involved in this whole Fast and Furious?
We didn't see criminal activity by the agents or the prosecutors involved in the case. We did find, as you noted, very serious failures in what occurred and how they handled themselves and their responsibilities.
Okay, with Eric Holder.
Again, Congressman, on the documents back and forth, given our independence as an independent entity within the department, we were not in the middle of any of the back and forth, and so I only know what I've read in the newspaper about that.
Okay. Do you have any idea, either of you, how much of the 65,000 pages that were finally turned over were redacted, percentage-wise?
Sir, I don't.
Okay. Mr. Brandon, I mean, as a result of Fast and Furious, you've testified that there's lessons learned, things have changed. Now, does ATF, do you believe, have a responsibility to disrupt potential straw purchasing, even if they're unable to obtain a prosecution?
Yes, sir. As I commented, that was one of the things when I came up here, saying that agents don't get credit for interdiction and deterrence. And I'll give you an example. My life was impacted. I was in Detroit. I got sent to Phoenix over Fast and Furious. And when I was sitting down with people looking at information coming in on multiple sales, it would be, hey, we don't have the time to build a criminal case. And I said, hey, you can knock on the door and do an old shoe leather, and that was be interdiction or deterrence, and emphasizing that. So to answer your question, we now give credit for ATF agents who do exactly that investigative work where previously they didn't get credit in all the spirit of public safety to prevent guns, like I mentioned, to be on the left side of boom, to prevent it from happening.
Okay, thank you, sir. I yield back.
Thank you. Now recognize the gentlewoman.